Hello everybody and welcome to another one of our short training videos. On this occasion we're going to focus on emotional intelligence. Now in one of the previous videos which you might have seen, I did talk about managing emotions. As a leader, how do you manage emotions? And I referred to emotional intelligence, and I want to delve a little bit deeper into that and what it means. So to start with, a couple of quick quotes and examples. One is Steve Jobs, who you remember famously said, "It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do." Hold that thought and we'll come back to it in a minute. Equally, the legendary Jack Ma, who was the co-founder of Alibaba, you may recall, and I'll paraphrase it, he basically said, last century people ruled using muscle. This century, it's not about muscle, it's about wisdom. And he went on to say that those who are successful are those who know how to use or have high EQ. He referred to EQ, emotional quotient, which is similar for the purposes of this conversation to emotional intelligence. So here you have great leaders who are very much focused, within the tech world, let's say. We're basically saying, hang on, it's not just about how you lead with your ego, with your autocratic approach perhaps, but it's more in today's world about how you engage with people. My name is Igwe and I have 35 years experience working across 5 different countries, creating, growing and leading teams across Europe, Middle East and Africa. And what I share with you in these short videos is really what I've experienced. So what I've learned, experienced, understood and translating in a way which hopefully helps you. So if you're new to this particular channel, please either subscribe to it, like, comment, share your thoughts. Love to know more about what you think of each of these videos. So like I said, in the previous world, previous times, maybe the previous generations, there's been such an emphasis put on ego-driven leaders, people who basically push their individuals, their teams, expecting more of them in that way. Now that might have been appropriate, but it's no longer the case and hasn't been for quite some years. So what is emotional intelligence? Well, emotional intelligence, and I'll come on to other parts in a minute, but emotional intelligence is basically a thought, an idea, a concept that is not only created but also researched and analysed and developed. It's quite new, in fact, over the past 20 or so years. And the individual who made it much more available and open, if you like, was an author and researcher by the name of Daniel Goleman. In 1995, he published a book which essentially is Emotional Intelligence: Why IQ is no longer as important. IQ is important, but emotional intelligence has been, through research, analysis, demonstrated to be way more important in today's world. So how does it relate to you and I, for example? Well, I guess one of the first things to do is to understand that emotional intelligence requires us to do 3 things, which is why it's available for all of us. And those 3 things are to identify, to assess, and to control. Identify, assess, and control not only one's emotion, so my emotion as a leader, the emotion of those or that person I'm speaking to, and the emotions of the wider group, the team, the company. So it's different layers of how those are influenced, how they affect, how they work, how they impact what you do. You see, the key thing is really understanding fundamentally, how do you observe your emotions and how do they translate into how you lead people? Daniel Goleman also mentioned 4 areas which he basically said are how to assess the core values of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness. The second is self-management. The third is social awareness. And the fourth is relationship management. Now, we don't have time to go through all of those, but let's just take two to make them as simple as possible. Self-awareness and social awareness. So it'll come as no surprise to you when, because I talk about emotions, it's talking about feelings. It's about how you feel. So in self-awareness, you're going to assess how you see things, how you are affected by decisions, choices, strategies that you put in place. What is the best way to achieve the results that you want? And then if you like, at a simple level equally, social awareness is how are those decisions, choices, recommendations that I'm going to make, how are they going to affect other people? So my team, my subordinates, the company, all those are critical elements. So self-awareness and social awareness are important. You start from a smaller circle, which is you, and you go out to a wider circle, which is the wider group. And through that, you basically analyze and assess and understand. If you're going to work on this, it's how do my decisions in given circumstances affect me and affect other people? Because remember, the key thing about leadership is that you have people who you are there to care for. They are in your charge because you are responsible for them. And in order to do that, you need to have what is fundamentally an important component, which is empathy, which is wrapped up in this emotional intelligence piece. Empathy, what is it? Empathy is about your ability to communicate with people at a different level, to understand where they are in their life, in their journey, in their work, in their experience, what is going on. If you like, to be able to read and understand them, but to also help them understand, that's why empathy is so important, that they are in a safe environment. So with you, they are safe. They can share, they can communicate, they can provide you with inner information that allows you to better lead and manage them. So empathy is very important, and it's one of the bedrocks of emotional intelligence. So, as a very quick example from my experience, what I've always done throughout my career is, no matter where I'm situated in the organization, I will always take my team for a meal. In some companies, I did it once a month. So once a month, we'd have Friday lunchtime, we'd go and we'd have a meal. And they would love it because they would want to choose a restaurant. Everybody was battling for where should we go and eat. It was such fun to watch them defining where the next place is that we should go and have a meal together. But that created an ambiance, that created a togetherness. Yes, there were fights, yes, there were disagreements, yes, there were quarrels, but for an hour and a half or 2 hours, we would just sit there. There'd be jokes. I'd be the butt of the joke sometimes with respect, but I'm just part of what goes on. That is also something which just comes naturally. It should be coming naturally. So you shouldn't do it just because you want to be part of the crowd. And you shouldn't avoid doing it because you don't want to be seen to be part of the crowd. Because what that does is that creates an engagement, a relationship, an opportunity for people to discuss. You can do the same for after-work drinks. Just you and the team, just a group of you. You go off and do that. But at the same time, as another example, as a leader, as you all know, there are times when you have to either reprimand somebody verbally, in the written form, or even leading to termination. And it was amusing because the way that I did it, and done it in different companies, is on a Friday, maybe around 6 o'clock, I'd invite whoever needed to be reprimanded into my office and we'd have a conversation. I won't go into that. But what was interesting is, during the lunch or the drinks or whatever, they would joke about it. And they would say, I don't want to be on Chris's radar when he calls me in for a meeting 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. That was not to be done. So it created a view. On the one hand, they were auto-managing, saying we don't want to be in that situation because Chris is not happy with it. But secondly, they were able to joke and get involved in a conversation. You see, as a leader, you have to allow yourself equally to be vulnerable. vulnerable within conditions. But that's where you've gone through this identity, assessment and control. So you start to understand through your own self-awareness, social awareness, the boundaries to which people can go. You allow them into your space and they allow you into theirs. That is the opportunity to engage and discuss with each other and really get to a point where you build that relationship and that strength. So emotional intelligence is a very, very important tool today. It's a very important leadership skill that we need to lead and develop with and grow with. Doing examples, working with somebody maybe. Maybe we need somebody outside of us because we're not good in sharing our emotions. We're not good in talking about things. We're not good in understanding ourselves. So that's where you need external support for that. But the point is, emotional intelligence combined with empathy is a very powerful tool in today's leadership, and that allows you to be even more successful than you are today. If this has resonated with you, then please feel free to like, to share, to comment, and of course subscribe to the channel, and you'll hear more from us in due course. Thank you.